Well, welcome to Breaking Free Together, the podcast where we explore the effects of narcissism and give you the tools to break free from its intrusive hold over you. Last week, we talked about recognizing and breaking free from toxic relationship patterns. Today, we're focusing on one of the hardest habits to unlearn for survivors of narcissistic abuse: people pleasing.
Yay.
Yay!
Got a medal in that one.
Yes, got a degree in that one.
Got a degree, yeah.
I haven't got a drawer full of t-shirts. I've got a dresser.
I like that.
True. So when we've been conditioned to believe that our value lies in what we do for others, saying no almost feels impossible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but we want to show you that prioritizing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival.
It starts from childhood, from the minute that you are influenced by your parents or they have any kind of influence on you. They immediately act like it's that their needs are the priority, and
Yeah.
that just continues on through childhood. And your job is to keep them happy. Your job is to make sure their needs come first. And they won't say it in as many words, but it's absolutely impermeates your whole childhood, doesn't it? And any love or any approval that you get from them is absolutely conditional. It's absolutely dependent on whether you've made them happy or you've made them proud or what you can do for them. And that's instilled into you from a very, very young age. So it's little wonder that then you grow up with still feeling that that's what you need to do to to keep people happy, is to give of yourself and to put everybody else kind of above your own needs, to put everyone's needs above yours. And then that has that long lasting effect, doesn't it? And the emotional cost to you is that you then, well, like we've just said, you then you put your needs at the bottom of the pile. No matter what happens, you keep saying yes, yes, yes to everybody. You burn yourself out because you can't say yes to everybody
No.
and do all of the things that you have on your plate, maybe be a mother or a father or and do your job and all of these other things, because it even goes down to our own children, our own immediate family, learning to not say no, but learning to not always say yes to them, to let them know that it's okay for you to have needs as well.
Yeah.
Um, so you end up getting this kind of burnout, and you end up feeling resentment towards people, and it's not their fault because it was your responsibility to say no. So
Absolutely.
you can feel resentment, so then it affects your relationships with people you love. And then also you can feel like you are being taken advantage of. Although again, that isn't down to the person. It was up to you to say no. And if you don't, then you end up feeling that you're being taken back. Well, they should know that I can't do it. Well, no, that's my responsibility to tell them. So it's all about this podcast this week is all about taking back that responsibility, isn't it? And taking back that kind of control. And another thing as well is that and I feel this, I have felt this, is you lose your sense of identity as well because you're so many things to so many people and you're saying yes to everybody for everything. You almost lose yourself and you end up with having no identity because everyone else is more important than you, and what they need is what's more important than you.
Why does saying no feel so hard? Because it's just one teeny tiny little word with two letters. Why does it feel so hard? And there are common fears, that we can relate to, even if you haven't been raised in a narcissistic household or you haven't experienced narcissism, but when you have, it just seems to compound it, doesn't it? We've got fear of being seen as rude or ungrateful, and no one likes upsetting people. I don't
No.
like upsetting people. As humans, we like to be kind.
Yeah.
And when we've experienced narcissism, that kindness is over the top.
Yeah.
We do it over the top because we want the approval.
Yeah.
We're nearly too nice
Yeah.
just to make sure you like me, just to make sure you're not going to treat me badly. And then when we think that kind of rolls on then into the anxiety of rejection, or conflict,
Yeah.
rejection or conflict, both of those, because we've experienced that massively
Yeah.
as children, either the conflict of dad coming in and saying, why isn't this done, and this should have been done, and we want to avoid that like the plague. We don't want to be in a situation where someone is angry at us or
No.
annoyed at us or shouts at us or yells at us. It's not going to happen.
What's the fear, isn't it?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen. But the fear is it happened when I was there in that situation at that age, or I was there in that situation in that relationship. And so it's going to happen again. Whereas a normal everyday person, when you say no, will just go, yeah, okay, no problem. I'll
Yeah.
find somewhere else. But in our head, we have this horror scene. I'm going to say no, and they're going to go, "Wah!" you know,
Yeah.
totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
But that's our experience, which is why saying no is so hard. And then when we think feelings of rejection from narcissistic survivors, it's intrusive. It really is intrusive. I suffered with that a lot through my teenage years and early into my early 20s. And I did things that I wish I had never done because I was so scared of someone rejecting me. It's a horrible feeling, especially if you've experienced it over and over.
Yeah.
Again, it's inculcated, it's a behavior you have learned over a period of time. And again, you don't need to be a child to have learned this behavior. You could have learned this behavior in a 2 or 3 or 4 year relationship
Yeah.
with somebody who has completely undone the person that you were before you met them, because
Yeah.
it's incremental. It just slowly, slowly, slowly,
Gradually. Yeah.
slowly. And then you're like, who the hell am I? You look in the mirror
Yeah.
and go, what happened?
Yeah.
And then we come to guilt. Survivors of narcissistic abuse have been accustomed to not having their needs met or even acknowledged. Saying no to put our own needs first evokes guilt
Yeah.
because we've been made to feel that we're not important. Our
Yeah.
needs are not important. How dare we want something for ourselves?
Mm.
So, for survivors of narcissistic abuse, no doesn't feel like a word. It feels like a betrayal of everything
Yes.
we were taught to be,
Yeah.
which is a whole pile of reasons why saying no is so hard. It's a whole pile of reasons, and it's a huge amount to unpack.
Yeah.
They can't be done all in one sitting. You
No.
can't just suddenly say, I'm going to unpack my rejection or my conflict. So, yeah, we need to reframe our mindset. We need to shift the belief that saying no is selfish,
Yeah.
because it's not. So to understand, saying no, it's a form of self-respect. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, you're saying no to yourself.
That's true. That's true. That's a really good way of looking at it. But it's really hard to do, isn't it? It's really
Very.
hard to I know that, you know that. But I think we've done this before. I seem to remember in one of our earlier podcasts, we touched on this about doing things in small stake situations. So for example, like for us, like our dad's a narcissist and he's like our biggest trigger. So trying to say no to him is really hard, like just up front straight away. That's the first no we're going to do as dad. But saying no in small situations or
Yeah.
with safe people, you can practice that then, can't you? Like if somebody invites you out somewhere, being able to say, oh, and like if you want to go, go. I don't mean don't go if you don't want to go. Well, if you don't want to go, I mean, I find myself double booking myself all of the time because I like don't want to say no to anybody. But say, oh, just be able to say no, no. That's a really nice of you to think of me, but I can't right now. So you're saying no to something nice, and you're saying no but thanking them, and you're saying no but thank you for thinking of me. So it's just in a little small way, or saying no to a little small favor, something that's not too big. So it's just starting small, because you can't, like you said before, you can't unpack all of that stuff and unlearn it and suddenly be able to be saying no to huge big things, or things that, or people that don't feel safe to say no to.
Yeah,
So those
absolutely.
Yeah, those small kind of soft no's are good for starting. And even so, giving yourself, you could even give yourself like a mental script. You could think up some ways of saying no. If you don't like conflict, which I don't, you can think up some gentle ways of saying no, or some ways of saying no that are complete. So there's no getting round them for people. So you haven't got like you can't haven't got to keep saying no to them. They're quite complete sentences. Like, oh no, I'm really not sorry. I need to stop saying that. I keep saying um no, I'd love to help, but I've got my plate is full at the moment, or I've got too much on at the moment, or I really appreciate you thinking of me and inviting me, but I'm gonna have to pass this time. I have to take a rain check. So it's all ways of saying no without explaining yourself,
Yes.
having to go into detail or over explaining, and without giving them people an opening, because there are people like Dad who would just trample right over your boundary, right over your no. And if you give them any reason at all or start over explaining, they'll start picking it apart. Well, don't worry about this, because what I can do is I can change this, that, and the other around, and then you can still do it. And so you can't stick to your no then, because
Yeah.
that's what you've used as a reason. Another one is, I can't commit to that. Oh, thank you for asking. I can't commit to that. Or I couldn't commit to that because I don't think I'll be free, or I've got too much on right now. So if you just practice saying them and have those little scripts in your head, then and just do them in little small situations and then build on that, and
Yeah.
it becomes a bit easier and easier to to say those things. And then if people are persistent, then you can find, and again, if you don't like conflict, that's fine. You can still find nice, gentle ways of repeating your boundary and saying to them, I mentioned earlier, I just don't have the time to do that. Or, like I said before, or I have already said no and my answer hasn't really changed, or my circumstances haven't changed at all, so I still can't. I'm really sorry. And being able to just reiterate and restate that boundary. And it may just be that because we're us and people know, not they know that we're people pleasers, but they know that we never say no. It may just be that they're used to pushing that boundary with us. They're not being unkind, they're not being narcissistic, but they're used to have being able to push that boundary and push it down flat. They're not used to us saying no. So then they need telling twice. And
Absolutely.
they can still be okay with that, but it just helps you to reinforce your boundary as well, which is good. People do need to do, and we need to learn to do that as well. Because sometimes your first no is great, and then you fall flat if someone presses you on the matter, don't you?
And I think as well, it comes back to teaching people how to treat you.
Mm.
We've
Yeah,
said this, many times before. People will treat you how you let them.
yeah,
So exactly what you've just said. If they come to you and you always say yes, then they're going to come to you because you always say yes.
yeah,
But if you're saying no, maybe they're in their head, they're going to go, oh, I'm not asked Karen because last time she was busy, and I'm sure she is busy, and I'm going to ask somebody else. And
yeah,
eventually, the message will get put across to that person if it's a persistent person or somebody who
yeah,
always comes to you. That's my experience has been with some people, that the same people come to you over again because you've let them come
yeah.
to you over again. But it's still not easy. I mean, the
No,
scripts are great, and I will put them in the description box below for you to copy and paste and maybe read over for yourselves. But it's hard to implement it. And I think we said this a couple of podcasts ago, that it's easy to say that you'll say it. And then when it comes to saying it, you're like, ah. So practice saying it, role
yeah,
play saying it. I mean, we can role play saying it with each other because we're either on the phone or we're on our Zoom calls or what have you.
yeah,
But if you have a sibling at home or a friend that you trust, that understands why you're doing this, they've been with you maybe through your journey of either being a survivor of childhood narcissistic parents or in a relationship. Find somebody. If you don't have anyone, and I know there are people that don't, if you don't have anyone, practice in the mirror. And I know you're going to feel like a complete dork doing it at the beginning, you're like, I'm sitting here talking to myself in the mirror. I feel like a complete idiot. But and there's a connection between your subconscious and your conscious mind. It's a habit. The more you do it, a bit like driving a car. I think
Yeah.
we said this last week. A bit like driving a car. When you first get in the car and you're like going, oh my God, what pedal does what and what switch does this and how do I do that? 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 lessons later, you're not thinking about putting your foot on the clutch before you change gear and then lifting your clutch and putting your foot on the accelerator and then slowing off and then looking in your mirror and then indicating to turn left and then pressing the brake and then pressing the clutch and then changing to a second and then making sure that you can go around the corner. You're not thinking, none of that happens. You're not thinking any of that because you've done it and 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 now your body is just doing it automatically.
Yeah.
Sometimes I drive for about 3 or 4 miles and forget I'm driving. Wake up and
Yeah.
go, oh, flip me, I've gone this far. Where am I? It's the
Yeah.
same principle. The more you practice it, as dorky as it might appear at the first time or several times you do it, the more your subconscious mind is going to go, okay, so this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do next time someone asks us. And then we're not going to be like rabbit in the headlights when someone says something and we don't want to say yes. And we're not going to go, what was that script supposed to say? What? You'll have said it so many times to yourself
Yeah.
that it will actually come out of your mouth and you won't realize it's out of your mouth.
It's like a muscle memory, isn't it? It'll just be there in the
Absolutely.
day. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're going to show you how to do it. We're going to do a bit of a a role play,
Mm.
just so you can get an idea. Not that I think you need to be taught how to do a role play, but just to give you an idea, right? So, um, Kazi, because she loves saying no all of the time, is going to be the is going to be the person who cannot commit. And I'm going to be the naggy sister who demands her time. Okay, so ring, 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 ring.
Hello.
Hello, it's only me.
Are you all
Listen,
right?
yeah, just a quick one. I've got a last minute appointment for my nails this afternoon. Could you pick me up and take me, please?
Oh, Pam, I'm not going to be able to do that. I've got a lot on my plate at the moment.
Oh, okay. It's just right, okay. It's just I'm not going to be able to get another appointment for another week if I don't go today.
Right. Okay, but I still have got a lot on my plate, so there's no way that I'm going to be able to do it, as I mentioned before.
All right, no worries. Okay, well, listen, I'll maybe get a taxi. Okay,
All right, catch you later.
I have to
Bye.
run. Bye.
Bye.
If you can do that with your friends, sisters, family, whatever, the more you practice it, the
Yeah.
easier it will become.
Yeah.
And I know that Kazi struggled there not to say,
Sorry. Sorry. That second one, especially, it's on the tip of my tongue to say I'm so sorry. I mean, and okay, it's okay to say sorry, but I'm trying not to say, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry, because you feel like you've almost got to feel absolutely terrible for not being able to jump to somebody else's needs when there's no sorry needs to be involved. You can't do it. It's that simple. Do you know what I mean? It's like they'll find another way, like you did. You said, well, okay, maybe I'll get a taxi. And it's not that you would like to help, and it's not that you're not sorry, but our sorries as survivors of narcissistic abuse from whoever, parents, partner, whatever, our sorries mean something totally different than just your general word sorry. Our sorries mean I feel like I'm such a shitty person for not being able to help you, give myself up for you, give the last of my energy for you, not move absolutely everything around for you. Do you know what I mean? Because you come first, and what I want, need, can do is neither here nor there. So being able to say that script or any of that without apologizing for it, because you don't need to. They asked you a favor, you couldn't do it. That's it, you know?
yeah,
Even if, and we've said this before, that no is a complete sentence. I mean, you would, you obviously you wouldn't want to be rude and you would like to have manners, but even saying no, I can't is the end of it. No, I
yeah,
really can't. It's so it's I mean, I'm sat here, you know me better than anybody, and we're sat here talking about this, and in my head, I know that I still struggle with this so much. It's not, and we're very, I mean, Pamela, as you know, is a qualified, counselor, a qualified therapist. She's been through so much training. I've been to counseling myself. I've been to therapy myself, and I've done a counseling course. And even, I mean, every time that we speak to each other, something will come up about dad, something will come up about our upbringing, something will come up about me apologizing all the time. Something will come up about something. So it's not like we don't talk about it a lot. We do, plus doing this podcast.
Mhm.
And even now, I struggle with it so much. So it isn't something that's going to you're going to be able to click your fingers and fix.
No.
But like Pamela said last podcast, if you don't do anything, it's not going to get any better. So at least trying to do something, at least you're trying to do something. And so from that, it will, even if it's millimeter by millimeter, you will start to get better and better about dealing with these situations, And then you start to claw. You know what I mean? Sorry, that's what I'm thinking about, when you're clawing your way up a cliff. Sometimes it feels that way, doesn't it? You start to feel like you're getting control back to you, which is what we have not had all of this time, is control because it's been taken off of us by the narcissistic person. So one of the benefits of being able to say no to people is that you've got this, you'll have increased energy because you won't feel so much under pressure all of the time. You won't feel like you've got to say yes to everyone, so you're doing a million things a day that you don't have time for, and then you don't have time for yourself. You don't have time to do your own things, or even just to sit and have an hour to have a cup of tea. So you're gonna have that energy back. You're gonna have that newness back,
Yeah.
that time for you to reboot, to re-energize, to be able to go on to do whatever it is you do with your day, your week, and then also having that clearness mentally of not feeling so inundated by requests or not feeling like you can't say no to people. If you know you can say no to people, then you only say yes to the things that you want to do or you know that you can do. And so that you feel a lot more in control mentally, a lot more in control of your actions. So that's two of the benefits really from saying no. And then, of course, one of the biggest ones for me, I think, is feeling like you're on control of your own life as well, that you're not just getting pulled along this river, which whatever way the current goes, that you've got your own little dinghy with your own set of oars and you're deciding which way you're going, and you feel like you have that control and you're empowered to be able to do what you would like to do. Say yes to what you would like to say yes to and say no to what you would like to say no to. And then the knock-on effect to that is your relationships that you have in your personal life or even professional relationships are going to be healthier
Yeah.
because you're turning up to your relationship as an authentic person. You're not, if half of the people that you said yes to knew you wanted to say no, how do you think they'd feel? They'd maybe feel like, oh, maybe they'd feel a little bit, not betrayed, but, they'd feel a little bit like, oh, you did that for me and you didn't really want to. So you've got to try and put it that way as well, not trying to make yourself feel guilty,
No,
but you
we have
want
enough
to,
of that.
yeah, yeah. But you want to be authentic with people, you want to be authentic with people. And the people that are only there because you say yes to them all the time, you might lose them, but they weren't good relationships to have anyway. So it means that the people you do have in your life, the friends that you do have, are true friends who are with you, even if you say no to them because you can't do things or you're not able to, or it's just not something that you can take on. You then get rid of all of that, sorry to call people that, but you know what I mean. You get rid of that kind of the
The
things that
hangers on.
yes, and the people that
Yes.
drain you, the people that take all the time. And the people that are left with you, or the things that are left in your life, then are things that are good for you and things that give to you as much as you give to them, relationships that can nourish you and that can help you be who you are, the best person that you can be, instead of having a drain all the time of people who only want to be near you because you give to them and you don't stop giving, which doesn't help you, and that's not really a healthy relationship either, is it?
Mhm.
So now we're going to da, da, da. Do personal stories of success. So we've told you what to do. I'm joking. Um, so just so you know that it's doable and that it's something that can be done and that a good result can come from it, then Pamela and I are gonna let you know a time that we've said no to people or we've put boundaries in, and then that some good has come from it. So I'm gonna let Pamela go first and share her story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had a friend who used me as her personal sounding board, especially once she knew. I mean, we were friends before I qualified as a therapist, but once I qualified as a therapist, my phone never stopped ringing. It was like, holy crap, I would have seen her name come up on the phone and I'd have gone, oh, you know, when you see that, you know, when you see a person's name on and you're like going, oh my God.
What
And
do we
every
do
time
now?
she'd call me, yeah, you know, and there were times I didn't answer, but I knew she would be relentlessly calling anyway. So
Yeah.
it was nearly just answer the call and get it over and done with.
Yeah.
Because it's not like if I don't answer, she would stop calling. She
Yeah.
would just ring another half an hour, or ring an hour later, or ring at another time that I didn't want to answer. So it was like, just answer the goddamn phone and get this over and done with. Do you know? This is before I had the strength to keep on to put any boundaries down. But you know, she'd usually start with, "Have you got a minute?" Which I know I didn't. And even if I did, I didn't have it for her because her minute lasted usually an hour or 40 minutes or an hour and a half or whatever. But yes, of course, I'd say yes. And then I'd be stuck on the phone for ages listening to her problems while at the same time being expected to give her advice on how to fix them
Yeah.
because I'm a fixer, which, you know, we know that, but this wasn't that, you know, it wasn't something that I chose to fix, but
Yeah.
she wanted constant help, which ironically, her partner was a narcissist and all her problems that she came to me with were the problems that she had being with this narcissistic person. The thing is, the reason she kept on coming back is because she wouldn't implement anything that I told her that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So she wasn't helping herself. She was literally just ringing up to moan and complain. And as you said earlier, doing the same things and getting the same result day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. And then getting on the phone and complaining to me and going, you know, you can't keep asking for help. If the person that then gives you help, you don't listen to what they're saying and don't do it,
Yeah.
and then come back to that person for more help, it's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it got to the point that, you know, when she rang and I'm like, do you know what? I can't do this anymore. And so it was hard. The first few times was hard. And I would just say, oh, you know what? I'm super busy. I'm so sorry. Can you, and then I would say, can you ring me later? Which I shouldn't have said, do you
Yeah.
know? And I shouldn't have said, I'm so sorry. Do you know, I'm so sorry for being here for you, online counselor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answering all your problems, even though you don't implement them. And the first time I was like, and she's like, oh, right. And you could tell she was a little bit, oh,
Not
well,
used to
you've
doing it.
always been,
Yeah.
available. Why are you suddenly not available now? And then it happened again, and then it happened again, and it took a few times, and then the phone call stopped coming altogether. And it was like, so I was only really here for you. I mean, and I forgot to mention, at not one point when she rung and said, "Have you got a minute?" did she ever ask, "How are you? Are you all
Yeah.
right? How are you? Are yours?" Or if she did, it was right at the very end of the call between her saying, "I've got to go now," or "Oh, I've got to run," or "I've got to rush off." So preempting her question with, "I've got to rush off, but how are you lot?" And I'm going, what you've got to rush off. So
Yeah.
not really uninterested, are you?
Yeah.
You know what I
You've got
mean?
30 seconds to tell me. Yeah.
Starting now. Ooh. But yeah, so it
Yeah.
was it was very obvious that it was a question asked out of what's the word I'm looking for? Oh,
Duty? No.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like it was a question asked out of duty. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It wasn't because she really wanted to know
No.
or because she really cared. It was like I wouldn't say obligation, but yeah, I suppose obligatory question, but it was an empty question.
Yeah.
Do you know, it was a very empty question. But yes, it took far too long for me to do it, but I did eventually do it.
Good.
And thus, funnily enough, after that, we didn't really meet up much. We didn't, the relationship kind of just, relationships just kind of dissipate
Yeah.
without
End up.
anyone ending it. It
Yeah.
just, I didn't see her very often. I didn't see her very much. And then I was very busy with my life. And then she didn't get in contact. And then it was months and months and months and months and months and months. And then maybe I'd see her on the street and be like, oh, and she'd throw her arms around me like we were best mates. And then we wouldn't see each other again for ages. And I haven't seen her again. I haven't seen her for years now, but it just shows you who you were for that person.
Yes. Yes. It's like we said before, whenever you're not like lying down on the floor to be walked all over or constantly at their beck and call, true friends will still be there when you're not able to do those things. Well, they wouldn't ask you to anyway. But then people that just, do you know what came into my mind's eye when you were talking is like Dracula sucking somebody dry.
Yeah,
You know, when she's just constantly sucking you dry, and then when that thing isn't there for her anymore, because it wasn't a two-way street, it was like she'd sucked you dry and you couldn't be there for her anymore. And so that's what all the relationship meant to her. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
she just walked away from it basically. Because if
yeah,
if there'd have been a two-way street, if she'd have been there because she cared about you, this still would have been some relationship, wouldn't there?
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah. And it
we
was, I
thought,
mean, you were exhausted afterwards.
yeah,
You got off the phone, you're like, you just nearly collapsed. So that's a perfect analogy, actually.
yeah, of being, yeah, just having, it's like, it's like you were a resource to her, and then she just took and took and took until, yeah, there was nothing left to take. But there was, and you put an end to that before you had got to that point, which is good,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
And then you didn't have to. That's it. It's like you, and in a way, it wasn't a rejection, but the fact that she like faded off. It wasn't really any loss to you, was it? Because you weren't really getting anything out of the relationship, you
Absolutely
know?
not.
Yeah.
No.
Well, mine's about dad, when is it not? And just more that, well, you'll know this, that on no numerous occasions, dad thinks that we will just drop anything and go because he has asked us to. Now, Pam lives in the same country, but I live in England. I don't live in Northern Ireland, so it's a plane ride there and back. And I'm a single mum with three children. And I can't tell you the occasions that dad has asked me to pop over, like it's 30 minutes down the road for this, or pop over for that, or pop over for the other. And he always used mum to guilt trip me. You know, your mum would love it if you came to our anniversary dinner, just pop over for the day. And, which is fine if I arrange and have arranged to go over for their anniversary, but you can't do it every year, not when they live in another country. And I don't recall them ever popping over for my anniversary when I was married, to be honest with you. But um and I would always say yes because I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
I'd say yes, and then I'd have to book flights. I'd have to make arrangements to leave my children really early in the morning because I'd wanted to get there and back in one day. I'd have to arrange to make sure I had time off work and different things like that. And it's not that I didn't want to do it, it's that I didn't want to do it. It was always, when he asked, it was always like a mountain to get through to arrange it all. So it was like a military operation to be able to arrange things for my children because I'm a single mom, and for work or the cost of it to just do for one day. Like before, if I come over and visit, as you know, I'll try and do it for a week to make it worth my while paying all of that money. Whereas this was just like, well, a day and get back. Because if it's a couple of days, then I'm leaving my children for a couple of days. One of them's still at school now, so I don't really like the fact that the older ones are the ones getting him up and sending him off to school. He should have
Yeah.
his mum there. Anyway, so off on that a bit. But yeah, so that's dad. It's like I clip my fingers and he expects you to like jump. And it's not been anything I could say no to before. And then it's probably helped. Ooh, don't want to say that. It's probably helped since mum's died because I haven't got her to feel guilty about, so it's just dad. But he came over to England not so long ago to visit his sisters who still live over here. And he wanted me to go up and stay with them. And he wanted me to stay for days, "Oh, come up and you can stay from like 3 or 4 days." But he didn't want the children to come. Where he was staying didn't have enough room for the children, which is typical of dad, isn't it? Let's face it, he would like to see us, but he doesn't really want to see kids. So not to bring the children, they can just stay at home on their own and you can come up and, you know. And I didn't want to. I didn't want to go and spend days away from my children. I didn't want to spend 3 days with my dad, to be honest with you. Plus, some other reason I didn't want to go up. But there's the cost of it as well. But then I managed to say that I was just going to go up for the one day. And Pamela and I discussed this. So the whole role playing thing we had done before, hadn't we? You had said to
Yeah.
me, don't say it's about money because then Dad will throw his money around if he'll always throw it back in your face after,
Hmm.
but he'll throw his money around if it means he can use it to get you to do what he wants,
Yeah.
So if I said, look, Dad, I just can't afford to, he'd be like, oh, don't worry, then I'll pay for it, or. But at some point in the future, it'll be, oh, do you remember that time I paid for you to come and see me? Or you only come and see me when I pay for you to. So I didn't say that. And I don't think I gave an excuse. I think I just said, I'm just going to come up in the morning and come back in the afternoon, and then I'm back there with the children, and I'm not going to stay from this day to that day. Yeah, so and that was set my boundary that way, and in the end, he was absolutely fine because he was gadding about visiting his sisters. So even if it had been there, I wouldn't have. I mean, you've had to go with him to visit our aunties, which would have been fine. I love them, but what was the point of me being there? Do you know what I mean? So I went up for the day he wanted me to go up for, but I didn't go up and stay up there overnight at all. And I'm glad that I didn't. And in no way did it cause conflict because he was too busy sorting himself out. And in the end, he always wants you there anyway. So he gets over his little tantrum if he has one. Because even if you didn't call him, he'd end up calling you for something. So in the end, it was good, and I was glad that I did it. I was glad. I'd rather have done that and cope with the discomfort of saying no for the first time or putting my boundary down for the first time than I would have been dealing with 3 days of being somewhere I didn't want to be for 3 days, being away from my children, being in an uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
So it was definitely worth doing, and I definitely benefited from from laying my boundary down and saying no, I'm not going up there. So, and I feel like in future, being able to do that and say no to him like that is that next time that I could do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's tricky. It is tricky.
It is. And like you said earlier, it's tricky because we make it tricky in our own head.
Yeah.
And because the behaviors are set before, because we have experienced those experiences,
Mm.
we think they're always going to be the same. We
Yeah.
think we're going to get the same as we got all those years ago or
Yeah.
in that relationship, which isn't the case.
No.
But it's about, again, like we said, reframing the mindset.
Yeah.
We could, as well as encouraging anyone, any of our listeners, is think about areas in your life where you feel overextended
Yeah.
or where you feel taken advantage of. Are there places where you say yes out of guilt or fear rather than because you truly want to? And if that's the case, those are the places you need to start practicing saying no.
Yeah.
Like we said, we're starting to sound like a parrot now. But the more you
That's-
practice it,
Yeah. Yeah.
the more you practice it, the more you do it. The more you
Yeah.
practice it, the more you do it. The more practice it, the more you do
Yeah.
it.
And I think I mean for me the whole thing of people pleasing is like you said before, because of all of the reasons that you feel you're worried you'll hurt someone, you don't want to be rejected, you don't want to have conflict to get into an argument, you don't want to disappoint people, and all of these things that we're talking about practicing. I think it's like that saying that you love, Pamela, fake it until you make it. You have to just, and this is really tricky to do. And I think this is where maybe going to therapy and also, like Pamela says, journaling and the affirmations every day. You have to build this barrier. I always think of it as a barrier, and I always sometimes I manage to do it, sometimes I don't, but sometimes I manage to do it. I always feel of like a barrier around yourself, and that no matter what gets thrown at you, a bit of rejection, a bit of this, a bit of that, you need to let it bounce off you, or if it bounces off you, because if you stay true to yourself and let it bounce off you, you're still staying true to yourself. If you're saying no because you have to say no, because that's what you need to do to protect your peace and your calmness and your energy, because you just physically can't do everything. You can't, as much as you want to be nice, etc., etc. We all need to be truthful and say that a lot of the times when we say yes, it's because we don't want to hurt people or we're worried what they'll think of us. It's not because we genuinely want to do whatever it is. We want to help people, of course, but there are times that you wish you would say no, you know? And if you could do that and so stay true to yourself and just let the other things bounce off of you, then nothing can actually hurt you too badly, because that's what
Yeah.
we're scared of at the end of the day, is being hurt, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, we're scared of being hurt and having this shield around us of saying, I am just being me. And it's okay to be me. It's okay to fulfill my needs. It's okay to be true to myself. And it's okay to be authentic. And use that as your little shield, so that when saying no, if you know we get someone's in a bit of a grump because we said no to them or things like that, that'll just bounce off us. And if that person is a true friend or someone worth having in our life, they will it'll stay with us, won't it? They'll stay with us. They won't be cross, or they won't be, or if they're a bit put out because they're used to us saying yes, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
And then the people who are just using us will just end up not coming back, and we don't need them. We don't need them in our life. We don't need them. We don't want their approval. We don't care if they're disappointed in us, if they really truly aren't our friends. They don't love us anyway. And we don't need their love, because we need the love of people around us who are true, honest, 100% friends, people who truly honestly love us. They're the people that we need to keep around us in our life. So it's almost like a protection, an automatic rejection. We said this the other day and I forgot what it was. What did you call it? A repellent. It's an
Yeah.
automatic repellent, isn't it? Of people who just keep taking from us. And so because we have that kind of like shield, that's what helps us be in control of us, because we can't control what anybody else does or what anyone else thinks of us. If they reject us or any of those things, all we can control is us, and that's all we need to be in control of, in our own little shield, in our own little staying true to us. And we keep that safe space, we keep that control, we stay true to us. And that's what we need. And that's really how we heal ourselves, and really how we become people who are not people pleasers anymore.
Yeah.
And whatever goes on outside of that goes on outside of that, but you're in control of you. And that's what's the most important thing, isn't it? Is you being in control of you. Because, and this is just personally, I find that a lot of my people pleasing comes from fear, rooted in fear that I'm going to lose people, rooted in fear of rejection. And once you are content within yourself and you know that it's okay to fulfill your needs, and you know that it's okay to do what's right by you, and that's okay, then the people that float off, then just let them. It's hard, but just let them. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
You can wave from inside your little
See
shield.
ya.
So, for all of our listeners, we'll put a challenge to you this week of saying no to something that doesn't serve you in some way, something that is going to make you juggle too many balls, or something that you don't really want to go to, and use one of those scripts if that's better for you, or think up your own thing to say. But to say no. To say no to something, or to say no to somebody, even if it's just not answering a call from someone you would normally answer, like you with your friend who drained you, even if it's just deciding not to answer a call because they don't need you to be there 24/7. That's saying no by just not answering the call, and then you don't have that drain on your energy. So that's a challenge this week if you so wish to take it up. And then we'd love to hear how it went. So put a little comment under the video to say that you've done it, and how it went, what the results were, and how you felt
Yeah.
doing it, whether it made you feel a bit more in control of your own life and a bit more empowered, you know. But we'd love to hear about that. And also then share this with anybody if you would like to, who you think would find it helpful. And also, yeah, thumbs up. Give us a like, a subscribe, if you enjoyed listening to us, because we do one most weeks, and share it with anyone that you think that would find it useful in some way or the other. Because as we always say every week, we just want to help people. We know
Yeah.
we've been there. We know what that is like to have been brought up or to lose yourself at the hands of a narcissist. And we just want to help people to get themselves back in any way that we can. And our teaser for next week, we're exploring forgiveness versus freedom. So, do you need to forgive to heal? Some therapists say you shouldn't. And we'll discuss that next week. So, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from her.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.